In this lesson, we will implement displaying tasks on the main page of our application, meaning we will want to display all tasks from the database here in the table. So, to start, let's add a new component, a Blazor component named tasks. Let's add C# code. Mark this class as a partial class, and we can proceed to the implementation. This page is to be displayed as the main page of our application, so page/. Next, set the page title as My Tasks and set the h1 header the same as My Tasks. Now we need a model here, so let's move to the C shared code. Let's create a private field, let it be iListDTO, which is a class from the shared project, and name it tasks. Now, in the view, based on this field, we will display the appropriate data here, meaning if this tasks field is null, we want to display a div with loading data. Otherwise, if tasks is not null, has been initialized, but has no records, no tasks, we also want to display a div, but with a different message, no tasks to perform. Because this case can also occur otherwise. If we have some data to display, we will display it, and we want to do it on a table. So let's add some bootstrap classes here. Table, responsive table, text center, align middle, and vertical margins set to 5. Next, we have the TED, which is the header of our table, table light, and in this row here in the header, we will display the column names, which will be title, and let's set this to a fixed width of 25%, so it will be title, due date, completed, and in the last column, we will have buttons for editing and deleting data, so we don't need any label here. Okay, that's it for the head, and now we move on to the T-body, and here we will iterate over our field, so var, item, in, tasks, and we will want to display a new row for each. So TD, in the first column we will display the name, so item, title, then in the second column we want to display the due date, but this due date here can be null, so we need to check first if this date has been entered in this place. So we will add some C# code here, and yes, if item term has a value, meaning the date has been entered, then we just want to display this date here. So we have an item term value to string, and here we can display the date in any format, including day, month, year. However, if the date is null, we want to display just a dash. Next, we have a column informing us whether the task has been completed. Here, we can also add some logic, and depending on whether the task has been completed or not, we will display the appropriate message. So, we check if the task has been completed. If it has, we will display a span with the message yes, and add some bootstrap classes to make it look nice, like badge, BG success, rounded pill. If the task has not been completed, we will display a span with the label no, and instead of success, it will be danger, meaning it will be a green label. Now, if we want to display HTML code here, we need to mark this string as a markup string in this way, and the same for the second case. If we don't do this, the span will not be displayed with these classes, but the characters will be displayed literally in our view. Also, it's worth remembering that we need to cast it to a markup string. Okay, and we have one more column with a delete button. So, the delete button, and when we click this button, we will want to delete this task. Oh, and besides that, we will also have an edit link, so if someone wants to edit this task, they will be redirected to the task editing page after clicking this link, and there we need to pass the identifier of the task we want to edit. So, I will complete this in this lesson. Let's add some classes here to make it look nice. BTN, BTN warning, BTN SM, appropriate margins, okay, and the edit label. Similarly, for the button, it will be type button, classes BTN, BTN danger, BTN small, and vertical margin of 1. And later, we will handle this delete button and the on-click event. As for data editing, we also want the title to be clickable in this place, and after clicking the title, we also want data editing. So I will add another link here. The href address will be the same as on the button, and let's add some classes here, bold, link primary. I will also want to remove the underline from this link, so I will add a rule for this link class in the app.css file and set the text decoration to none. Great. And as for the view, we have everything for now and can move on to the C# code. So, tasks, Blazor.cs, and here we want to display all tasks from the database. As I mentioned earlier, a good place for this is the on initialized async method. So we will override this method here, and we will want to display tasks from our task repo. So we need to add the appropriate method in a task repository. We want to return a list of tasks, DTO. The method can be called getAll, and we will implement such a method in task repository. So the getAll method, await, and again on the client, this time we call the get from JSON async method, and here we provide the data to be returned, so task DTO, and the endpoint to be called, and similarly here it will be tasks, only here we have the HTTP get method. So from our web API, we want to call this HTTP method get. Great, let's move on to tasks, razor.cs, and here we call this method from the repo. Oh, and we need to inject this repo here first. To make it quicker, I'll copy it from task, add. Great, so task repo getAll, and at this point all this data will be saved in the tasks field. And that's basically it. We can now run our application and see if it actually works. So I'm on the main page of our application and we have the message no tasks to perform. So I think I made a mistake somewhere. Yes, here I'm checking if our field contains any elements, but here it should obviously be a negation, meaning if our field doesn't contain any elements, then we display this message. But thanks to this mistake, we also verified that this message displays correctly. So I will rebuild the application once again, and let's go back to the browser. As you can see, our task displayed correctly. So we have a table here with the appropriate title, deadline, and information on whether the task was completed. We can add another task here, user management, the same description, and let's say this time it was completed, and change the date, for example, to the 20th. Save. We will be redirected here, and notice that everything is also displayed correctly. I will now add a few more records here so that the table has more data. Okay, so this is what our table looks like, and now I invite you to the next lesson where I will show you how to update data.